There we go. Let's see where I was at in this game. Pilgrims. That little sound reminds me of my... oh, there the bot just came through. So why can't I change the volume? I dislike that.
Mama,
Now I can go back to... where was that? Fishing guy? So now there was somebody who wanted a fish. I forget who. Do I cook the fish, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy wants a bottle or something. Oh yeah, she wants a bird. I don't have a bird. So, just in case you're new here and you've been watching, see the bots worked for Good Stuff Discord finally. If you're new here, what's this guy want again? He wants fish. There we go. Fish.
Yeah. Daddy.
Eh? Up. Up.
Give me a bottle.
Up.
gun guy. Anyways, Nicholas and I record a podcast talking all about Apple Arcade. So I'm just killing some time playing an Apple Arcade game called Pilgrims that we're going to be talking about in the podcast shortly. So that's what's happening.
Indy, panda.
Yeah, I don't want your liquor.
Dale.
Yo.
Twitch.tv/GSFM. Just I missed it. I took my bottle. Oh. Now he wants an acorn.
Ja.
Oh, he came along for the ride. Let's see. Oh. I guess the moral is alcohol makes everything better, right? I forget what else I had done here.
Awesome.
Need a rope to tie up the priest. Gotcha. I've got a rope.
Lava, psycho, levo, davniti.
Kind of an angry man. Drunk man. Get another worm. It's a strong guy.
Yeah! para regalo.
All right, let's shut this down. Oh.
Hello?
Hello.
Am I interrupting your pilgrims?
Yeah. Interrupting pilgrim time. I just found out that... Oh, come on, microphone. Just found out that the princess was stolen from the king. It's a little bit cliche.
Oh, I think that's a little different than
Or there's
what I got.
Well, there's a dragon on top of... I just saw the dragon on top of the castle. It kind of looked like a picture of a princess, maybe. Getting that he was shouting at
I
the
think
king.
I read it as the dragon was
Or needs a
asking
princess?
for the princess,
Oh, okay.
wanted the princess. But yeah, we can get into that in a minute.
Yeah. Cool beats.
Glad we could squeeze something in before the break.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So, let's see. Just take a look at the Google Doc, and then we'll get going. The main issue. Whoa, big screenshot.
Oh, it got giant. I pasted it in on my phone and it was right size.
That's fine. Just can scroll through it.
Sorry, let me...
No, it's fine. Over the Alps.
Oh, it's because phones are Retina.
Right. Well, I've seen that before with Google Docs too, where it like messes with your... Yeah, okay. All right, I'm gonna hit record on my end, and
I will do the same.
let's see. I'm just gonna hide the bookmarks toolbar in case that should need to.
All right, I'm recording.
Make sure notifications are off. So
My notifications are...
Ecamm apparently just updated. So the streaming software I use to send this out to Twitch, etc., just updated with a new version, and they have they added a soundboard pane, I guess, or whatever, like panel. So I think, tell me if you hear this. Nothing?
Nope.
See, that's what I wonder what they like. I've set it up so that you can hear our... I think you've got this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're hearing that. Yeah, so that's obviously something they have to figure out, because if you have someone... Obviously, it works fine if it's just me, but like you have no idea that I'm playing a DJ air horn right now.
I'm missing out is what's happening.
You're missing out on half the fun of a podcast, really. So, obviously, that'll be something they'll have to tackle, I guess. But anyways, it's a neat little feature if you're into a live streaming software, if you happen to be out there. Okay, let's do this podcasty thing. Make sure.
I'm very orange today because I didn't know what room I was getting.
I love it. It's like a different room every time, different color.
I know people will be wondering. When I work from home, you know, what if I ever recorded like with like Aaron, we did a few. It was always in the same spot in the home office, but now it's like wherever I can find a spot.
Yeah. I wish I don't have the. I think it only works for me, but the green screen filter thing or whatever, could apply that to your camera and probably do some pretty neat things with that backdrop.
Yeah, put me in space or whatever.
All right. Hello and welcome to. I clicked there. I'm going to try that again. Hello and welcome to 25 Cents, an Apple Arcade podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Nick. Each episode we'll be talking about the Apple Arcade games we've tried, what we keep going back to, what we think might be great games to check out if you've got kids, and preview upcoming games.
And you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on the web at Goodstuff.fm.
Hello,
Hello, Nick. How are you doing?
Good, good.
Welcome back to the show.
It's coming to the end of a week.
Yeah, and you have break next week as well, is what we figured out. I'm in Canada, you're in the United States, so we sometimes have the same holidays, and sometimes they're different.
Yes, well, I don't have break, but my son is off school. I think I'm going to try to take a day.
Yeah, that's me too. I'm in the situation working from home where the kids are off school, and then so normally there probably would be a lot more. There probably will be some extra video game screen time happening around here, so I can get some work done. But yeah, I try to take a day or two off in there just to make it a little more fun for the kids who don't always understand what work is, and and less stress for myself, I guess, too.
All those routines of poor adult life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a little bonus screen time last week because my son was sick and needed a little more distracting during the day.
Yeah, that's always like I think my kids anyways, have gotten to the point where they're like kind of looking forward to almost being sick sometimes, as long as it's not too sick, obviously. But it's just like, I think my stomach's feeling a little off, Dad. I might have to stay home from school.
play some Switch or Apple Arcade.
Exactly.
I always remember. I think when a sick day was like sleep in, wake up, watch The Price is Right because it was on at like 10:30 or 11 in the morning, and then I'd transition into, at least in high school, all of the Star Trek reruns would be on during the day on one of our channels.
Oh yeah, nice.
So there'd be like 4 hours of Star Trek random episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny looking back, that transition from like
wearing the matching shirt.
Oh, nice. I'll go back to the I remember doing the like TV, whatever happened to be on TV, you're subject to when you're homesick. But then eventually, like getting a Nintendo and then a Sega Genesis, and the sort of video game take over, where eventually I could do that instead of watching soap operas or whatever happened to be on. But speaking of games, since this is a video game podcast, what we played last week, or since last episode, sometimes it's not a week ago, sometimes it's longer, but last episode we decided to play Pilgrims, and I was just playing a little bit beforehand on the stream here, so if you happen to be watching on Twitch, that's what I was playing. I still haven't figured out in the streaming part, my iPhone volume in my headphones compared to my voice is really loud, and so it's really hard to like talk over what I'm doing, which maybe is a good thing. I shouldn't be doing it, but anyways, that's why it's a little bit weird when I'm playing. So what did you think of Pilgrims? What was your experience as a pilgrim in Pilgrims?
So there were a couple times where I got a little confused or stuck, not really being sure what to do next. But as you kind of visit each of the several locations that are available to you at any given time on the map, you can kind of start to see like, oh, this character had the little thought bubble looking for some item. I remember seeing that on the shelf in this other place, so I'll go back there and see what I need to do to get that thing from the other character. So there's a lot of that kind of chaining. So it's less like other point and click adventure games where you kind of have your inventory and you're like, what weird combination of items can I put together in my inventory to make the thing that will unlock the door? And it was more kind of, okay, I'll wander around everywhere I can go, see what's there, see what everybody wants, and then try to get the combination of, at any given time, there's sort of your main character, which is the mustached pilgrim, I guess.
Right.
And then you have some supporting characters that are sometimes available to you. And depending on where you are and who you bring out and which item you bring out, different things will happen. Sometimes it'll be just like a funny little vignette, and other times it will actually get you some progress through the story.
Yeah, I don't know how you found it. Like when I first tried the game, I was a little bit confused. Like it does a decent job of explaining what's going to happen here, but I kind of like didn't totally get the mechanics of like, I'm going to drag a card up from the bottom to sort of play in this scene and see if that works. Like choosing a character and then choosing like you said, the accessories or the things that you've picked up along the way. That wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't immediately obvious. And I kind of come from like, whatever the reason is, maybe it's just cheap background or whatever, of like, what if I play something and it's the wrong thing in this kind of game and I lose it and it's gone kind of idea? Because it kind of feels that way, like you're playing a card, at least in games that I played, and then that card is gone. And whereas in this game, it's very clear, obviously, you figure out pretty quickly, the cards come back if you play the wrong one in a scene or whatever, it's not the one you need, you get it back. And so that sort of fear, I guess, was unlocked pretty quickly. But But yeah, it was actually, I sort of went back and forth on enjoying it a lot, then getting kind of frustrated, just like the mindless, not quite mindless, but like almost mindless, like, okay, I have to go back now to get the fish over here that I saw, click over there, wait for him to walk across, and then go, finding the key to unlock the next door, basically, kind of mechanic of the game. But then actually just now, so I hadn't played it for a few days here, and then I was just playing on the stream, like I said beforehand, and it's actually fun. Like I was enjoying unlock. I think I'd gotten sort of blocked a little bit or whatever fairly early on in the game. As anybody listening to the podcast knows, I get about 20% of the way through a game, if that. Nick gets a lot further along, and hashtag switch. Except this time it's actually hashtag NHL 20 for the Xbox or whatever that I just got distracted with. But yeah, and it was like kind of fun unlocking and then getting a new character as well to play with. So you how far did you get in the game?
So I finished the game as far as I can tell. But I did have a leg up because I'd actually started this back around arcade launch. This is one of the games I tried. I got stuck and I gave up on it, deleted it.
Oh, okay.
And thought, oh, maybe I'll come back to it at some point. Obviously, doing the show was a motivation there. So two things on that. One was this is the first time I've tried the sort of restore progress from iCloud. And so when I opened it up, the one thing that was a little odd was it actually gave me this, I think, apparently standard dialogue that was, do you want to use your save on this device from 1 minute ago or your save from the cloud from like a month ago? Oh. And I think that's a little confusing. I feel like it should have realized that my local save was basically empty and just grabbed the cloud one. Right. But other than that, it was fairly clear, although I could imagine someone picking the wrong one and then
that's it,
their
right?
cloud one gets overwritten and they lose their progress. So that's maybe not quite fully baked at the arcade service level. But yeah, I don't remember how I got stuck. I think there's like a priest in a little village that you have to talk to, and I just couldn't get him to do anything with the right combinations of things. And then this time I did things in the right order and was able to get him to do the next step.
That's where I was just actually at on the stream. I had hit the priest with an acorn. I think the old lady threw the acorn at the priest and it rebounded off the church and hit him in the back of the head. And then the I don't know what he is, like the sort of drunk alcoholic guy, for lack of a better term. Not the main character, but the sort of strongman guy. He scared him back into the church. And then it showed like a symbol of like needing a rope or something to tie up the priest, which feels all weird, but that's maybe what it was. Yeah. I did it in the wrong order or something. That is
definitely it, because I eventually was able to tie up the priest.
Which sounds like, because
So
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna, I think that's a good point to talk about. Kind of the art is kind of is very fun. Like that's I think the highlight of the game, at least for me, was these sort of strange looking, almost wizened old characters, or like very big facial features or strange facial features, and a very animated, exaggerated expressions and stuff was definitely a highlight, especially during the times where I was kind of getting stuck on the puzzle element.
Right. Yeah. The other scene I had was the again, the musclehead guy when you went to the bar or the pub or whatever, and I thought he was going to ask for a drink, but he just like punched the barmaid or the barman, and then the barman punched him back, but then they I figured out you needed to flip him a coin, and that unlocked like him getting a pint or whatever, and then they were laughing together. So it was kind of very, very kind of bizarre, funny sequence of I don't know if it's condoning violence and tying up priests exactly as a great game message, but it was funny to watch in the context of this game.
Well, I think so it's funny because I don't think I got that brawl element, and so my sense is from having finished the game is the idea is that there are a bunch of different combinations that will actually work to progress the story. Right. And so I was able to finish, but I only saw maybe a quarter of the possible outcomes at the different locations on the map. The one thing that I was a little confused by was there's this element with a bird. That's sort of like the main quest. You're trying to catch this bird for the old woman who has the rowboat. And the first time I realized it was like a core quest component was a little bubble popped up to show my guy walking one notch closer to the bird.
Right.
And then I was realizing like, oh, I need to go do more and find the bird more places. So there's sort of this where you do sort of key unlocks or important unlocks through the game that get you closer to the bird, and then eventually you get the bird.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think as a whole, the art and experience of the game, and especially the way the characters express themselves non-verbally, which is great for a game going international, right? Mm-hmm. Is they don't have to record dialogue, just a couple characters going like.
Yeah, it's a little bit Simlish almost,
and some
or it's
icons.
called Simish. Yeah, like the Sims.
Yeah,
language.
Exactly. So that's all cool.
Yeah.
The mechanic itself.
Yeah, like I've been I was interested or excited, I guess, to see that it's a short game, because I guess this again goes back to where if you'd paid $5 for a game, a hand-drawn game like this, and it's short, you're kind of like, that feels a little bit like didn't get my money's worth, even though it's a really beautiful, interesting game. Whereas in Apple Arcade, you can just play through this game, and it's short. And I don't know if you felt it short, but like that's what one review I was reading just the other day was just kind of like alluding to the fact that it's a shorter game, and that's kind of like a drawback normally in a game on mobile or whatever where you've paid for it. Whereas with Apple Arcade, it's part of your subscription, so who cares if it's short? Kind of like Netflix releasing a 20-minute show and then releasing a 2-hour show. You don't really care. You're not worried about getting your money's worth. You just want to be entertained, and if it's a good show. So in finishing it, I guess, did you feel like, was there any element of that of like, I'm surprised it's over already, or just kind of like good?
Yeah. I really, it felt shorter than expected. In particular, I assumed that as I cleared the first map area, that there would then be another map area, but instead it was end credits.
Oh wow! So it's that short, like.
Yeah. So that's really good. It's digestible. So I think that kind of gets to the arcade model where we get to see these small studios put together these kind of really beautiful games where doing this kind of art at scale would be really, really hard. Mm-hmm. But as a small, digestible, not mini game, but a smaller game, you can really build this complete experience that you wouldn't get otherwise if you just had to do it as an upfront paid business model or an IAP business model.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that arcade is maybe unlocking more as a possibility. And that's cool for someone who enjoys the art of games.
Yeah.
Unlike Grindstone that we talked about last week, I'm not really going to be going back to this one. Maybe they'll add a whole new set of levels, and I'll see that on the What's New in Arcade tab. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm done with this game. I enjoyed the experience. I think I got, if I look through the settings view, I got 16 of the achievements, but I don't really see myself going achievement hunting and trying to get all the other possible combinations of quest unlocks.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, unless I got stuck somewhere and like felt like, how sometimes in these kind of games you're like, you get stuck on a question, sort of like what you did, and then it just feels like I'd rather just start over because I can't remember where the thing was and I don't want to have to run around or whatever. That's where I could, I guess you could maybe start over, but yeah, otherwise I don't think there's a replayability here to that, which I think, again, like we've said in a few different ways, I think is fine for this kind of game too, especially under the Apple Arcade model. Whereas normally they'd probably have to do in-app purchase or season upgrades or whatever kind of thing just to make some money off of it. And yeah, like I said, I guess that's one way we could build some sort of spreadsheet tracker of like games that actually have extra things added to them down the road would sort of indicate some level of like how much they were played on Apple Arcade, how successful they were, versus games that kind of just get left and then the publisher themselves maybe doesn't ever come back to Apple Arcade. So again, someday we'll get an actual dev producer person who's maybe off the NDA from Apple Arcade to talk about how it actually works behind the scenes. But for upfront, it's a fun game and definitely worth grabbing just to try out and play. So I didn't play it with moving, sort of transitioning into Kids Corner. I didn't actually play it with the kids around or play it with them. I don't imagine you did either, with given sort of the mechanics of it and storyline maybe.
I didn't, just the trailer and the art style alone was enough for me to decide like, there's these kind of creepy looking characters. That's something, they're not quite human looking. with their exaggerated features, and I got the sense that that wouldn't appeal to my 6-year-old.
Yeah. I think I could definitely see 9, 12-year-old, my older kids playing it and enjoying it to a point. But I think, the mechanic of it, I don't know if they, I guess I have yet to see them play a game that's that you sort of have to use your imagination, fill in the blanks of figuring out what they're actually asking for. But I think they'd probably enjoy it, again, being short enough that they could see sort of end results fairly quickly with it too. You had asked, is this, I don't know if this is from last time or the handling requests for new games / Overcooked, or was that from before?
Yeah, so I think we had talked about sort of a few episodes ago, we talked about how, well, okay, we're paying for arcade. We have all these games. Why don't we pick from one of these? And at least in my case, sometimes, my son will see something else on the store splash page when he goes in, or he'll have an idea for a game that he kind of hopes exists and will ask me like, hey, can I have a game that is like this, like a cooking game or a city building game? And was just wondering, especially since you have older kids who maybe have something more like an allowance type income or even little odd job type income, how do you manage them deciding to pick up new games for any of the devices, arcade or otherwise?
Yeah, we actually haven't had to cross this too much, other than like trying to educate our kids on what like digital purchases are actually meaning. Like my son, I think it was last Christmas or the Christmas before, I forget, but he had got some money and he wanted to convert it to, he wanted to buy, let's say it was NHL and NBA games for the Xbox, and they had a deal on like the FIFA as well or something. Anyways, whatever combination of games it was, he bought one, and I was like, you know what? I don't think we're going to play it. And also, if you buy it digitally, you can't resell it. You can't give it to your friend or whatever. We're stuck with it, kind of idea. But it was, we're trying to also let him spend his money his way, and so we ended up buying it. And then that particular game, anyways, what it was, NBA or FIFA, I can't remember. Basically, we've played kind of twice, and now it's just sitting on our Xbox account, and we could play it someday. It's not like it's wasted per se. We're not like disappointed that he spent the money, but it was a good lesson for him of like learning about whether you buy a game, whether you play the demo, whether you try and wait for it to be borrowed from the library, and so that's kind of like. And then other than that, it's been mainly like the Fortnite, what is it called, season passes or whatever, where you buy like for $15, you unlock some extra costumes and stuff and animations. But then it's not a thing that you actually have in the real world. That's a fun one / frustrating one to walk through with kids who are like, why wouldn't I just buy it? And also they see a lot of their friends, just buying everything, somehow having this insane allowance for digital downloads and stuff like that. And so kind of walking through some of that and teaching them about the long-term effects of buying things and how money disappears if you spend it, and all those things at age-appropriate levels, of course. And because it happens with real-world stuff as well. Obviously, not just digital downloads. They want to buy stuff that is going to be in the garbage in 2 months or less, if it even makes it home that day. So, but yeah, we have the gluttony of or whatever of too many choices right now, where we have Switch, Xbox, and actually Apple Arcade is kind of like, and iOS games in general are so low on the totem pole in terms of their desire. That's something we'll be crossing in the near future as they get into the age of actually having their own devices potentially and sharing all that kind of stuff, which I'm not looking forward to at all. So,
yeah, I think so. I think I've mentioned before that there is a family iPad, but it's primarily my son's device. Like, he kind of has dibs on it during approved times. And actually this morning I woke up to a creatively spelled text message from him that he found Mongolia on the map on the iPad. And Mongolia had come up in a story we had read the night before. So it was kind of funny. He woke up and just grabbed the iPad to look at a map. But yeah, I think eventually we're going to have to figure out this idea of, okay, there will actually be a budget of your spending money that you have access to from helping out around the house or whatever. You can only assign so much of it up to this maximum, and we're not going to bail you out if you make the wrong choice and purchase the wrong item.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's just like buying candy in the store, and you're like, I know you're not going to like that, or whatever. Like there's a learning point where you have to let them fail, just like riding a bike, etc. But then there's also like, okay, no, we're actually not going to let you do this because this is sometimes, you're just like that.
The override kicks in. I know I've had that a few times when we're playing board games together. And he really likes a lot of board games, and I kind of make a strategy recommendation, and he's like, no, I want to do it this way, and I'm like, okay, and then it turns out to not work out for him, but that's actually been a pretty good experience, I think, that he's like making his own independent choices, but not necessarily playing the game optimally, and seeing how that turns out is like a good little mini consequence is kind of the wrong word, but that idea.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so keep it moving here. What games you mentioned Grindstone earlier, and I know that's one I keep going back to in our games. We keep going back to segments here. It recently got an update too, which we'd sort of alluded to a bit of a change that we thought might happen, and so now it definitely has happened in terms of the gore slider. Which do you want to elaborate on?
There's now a gore slider, so the previous only option is now the middle setting, which is, we kind of talked about it last episode. The critters explode in little giblets of gore, and now you can slide it to the left and get no gore. They just kind of poof into little stars. Or you can slide it to the right, and there's now additional splatter and eyeballs.
So I'm gonna, just for anybody who's on the screen, you can keep describing it. I'm just gonna. It's muted, hopefully, but I'm going to just go in and look at this while we're talking here because it is kind of funny.
Yeah. So the thing that I think is nice for me is I think this means I could see if my son likes it, because while technically he could go into settings and change the slider, if I just change it to low, he probably wouldn't notice, and then he could see if he likes the actual game itself. And then the other thing that changed a little bit is I mentioned they had done an update where you didn't have to slash up the guy with the crown at the end of the level, and now that's tied to your gore setting. So if your gore setting is on low, then it just does the little kiss and poof disappear animation, and if your gore setting is on high, then it just you slash the guy up and he explodes and gives you the crown. So they've obviously responded to feedback around the violence level of the game, or gore level, I guess.
Yeah, it's that. Oops, I shouldn't start playing a game. I just wanted to see if I could get to the guy with the. I got notifications coming in too. So yeah, I see like how it's just like stars go up, and then he's. I got attacked by the guy. I didn't attack him. Anyways, I'll shut this off now because that's going to be way too distracting. But yeah, it's that definitely actually like it for as minimal as the gore was in the game in terms of like for an adult watching it. Like there's nothing where you're like, oh man, I can't even look at this, or any nothing Game of Thrones style or whatever. It's just kind of like cartoony,
nothing horrifying.
No, yeah, but it was like for a kid playing it, you could definitely see where it'd be like, oh, there's like blood splattering everywhere as this guy goes around with a sword, and like very obviously what's going on. And I think that's an interesting little adjustment they made. And an Apple Arcade being that it's, I don't know what the the use case is for most people out there, but I could see a lot of parents being like, sweet, we're just going to do this. This is your arcade, your mobile gaming experience is entirely an Apple Arcade, and we can trust Apple because they're whatever, PG supposedly or whatever, that it's all going to be good. And yeah, having that option anyways gives it that flexibility, and points to, I think, the fact that Grindstone is actually must be a fairly popular game, that they would make that kind of update and worthwhile, sort of adjusting all the graphics or whatever with whatever amount of work they had to do. So, and
I think it's a credit to Cappy Games that they obviously had enough success, but also were listening.
Yeah. Anything else? You had finished. You had a note here that you finished the Enchanted World, which we had played, I think, in episode 5. I want to say a few episodes back, anyways.
Yeah, a few episodes ago. So I had mentioned at the time that I'd gotten stuck on this like flipping gear level. I just went and put a YouTube video up on the computer and kept pausing and doing the slide moves as I went, because I had tried several times. So I did the walkthrough for the 2 hardest gear levels, and then I beat the rest of the game myself. So something about the way that particular subset of levels mechanics just didn't work for my brain.
Yeah.
But once I got past those, there were the remaining 10 or so levels I just slowly worked through over the week and got to the end of the game. I think there were 2 more game worlds. So yeah, I mean, again, it was a fairly short game. The difficulty varied a lot level to level as they introduced new mechanics. I would say it does not look like a game where there could be more story. The way it ended, it seemed like I've defeated the big bad and gone back home. Unlike, say, Pilgrims, where it seems like they could add a new chapter, a new set of environments in a future update.
Yeah. So you roughly, it's like you said, about 19 levels or worlds or whatever it looks like. Because you said looked like you were stuck on 16 and 17, and then there was 2 more worlds that were added after that. So probably 20 levels anyways. So just for reference, if somebody's like in the game wondering how long it actually goes for, just give them some idea of the Enchanted Worlds. That was episode number 7, actually, that we played that in. And yeah. Sorry, I'm dealing with some messages here too. Home messages that aren't anything to do with the podcast. This will be edited out. The audio version.
You need to get going, right?
But yeah, we're going to wrap it up here very quickly. For next episode, we're actually going to skip a week just with the break and stuff and give us a little more time to play. And so you had suggested a couple story-type games, which, again, giving a few weeks of break, it makes sense. And I was thinking of the 2, Mutazione, I don't know if you say that, or Over the Alps. Over the Alps kind of looks like an interesting one to try out of the 2. Did you have a preference between the 2, or is it kind of either or for you?
I think so. The reason I picked both of them is they were on the sort of award-winning list. I think Mutazione maybe won an Independent Game Developers Award, and I forget which one Over the Alps won. But yeah, Over the Alps looks really cool. It's got kind of a Orient Express European intrigue vibe to it. Looks like. Yeah. Sounds like it could be interesting.
Although the tagline for Mutazione is a mutant soap opera where small town gossip meets the supernatural, which has its own appeal, certainly. So we'll archive that one maybe for next time or future episode. Sure. But yeah, we'll do Over the Alps for this next time. And so if you're playing along at home, you can go download that. That'll be in the show notes, of course, but you can find goodstuff.fm/25C/9 is this episode. And I want to thank you for listening to 25 Cents, this Apple Arcade podcast. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm iChris.
And you can find me on Twitter and most everywhere else as Ultra Nerd NURD.
And like I said, you can find 25 Cents wherever you listen to podcasts or at goodstuff.fm/25C. And be sure to hit up the Good Stuff Patreon, patreon.com/goodstuff if you want to join our Discord, join the Minecraft server, and all that kind of fun jazz that we do at goodstuff.fm. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
All right, I won't even pretend this time to play the music out.
All right.
And we're going to turn off the stream. Thank you, folks, for watching, if you happen to be out there or watching later on the replay. And we'll talk to you later. And broadcast. Okay.